Yeah, the former president, Gideon Sam, left on the 31st of December. As per the SASCOC constitution, the first vice president would act as president. Since that position was vacated, I will act in that position until the 28th of March, which is the envisaged date of the quadrennial elections of SASCOC. So the 28th of March, I'll be leading the organization and acting as president until then. In the meanwhile, since the second vice president position was also vacated, the acting second president has been selected as Mr. Alex Kusana. He'll be the acting second vice president.
I know it's still something new from now in December until now, but what are the priorities? Because there was talk of even an early election. So what are the priorities between now and then?
Well, the main priority is to conform to the Zulman Committee's recommendations. We've had an agreement with the Minister that we will adhere to those recommendations, and through our interactions and discussions with the Minister, we've now implemented some of them. One of those criteria is to change the constitution, not only to have early elections, but also to ensure that we bring in those two independent board members as well, one from finance and one from legal. So once we change the constitution on the 25th of March, then that will enable us to make those other changes according to the Zulman Committee report and recommendations.
You've had a turbulent past 2 years, and I'm sure one of your immediate goals is to make sure that you stabilize things, leading to the takeover of the new leadership.
There are many things that we need to stabilize. You must remember we're still in a CCMA matter with the previous senior managers. That is ongoing. We are now preparing for an Olympic and Paralympic year, so those preparations are still in place and the athletes are still competing and ensuring that they are able to compete at those two major events. The other commissions of SASCOC are still operating. We're still working on bringing finance into the organization and stabilizing our staff and all the operations of the organization. So those matters are still ongoing.
Funding has been a critical issue, and we know that, especially leading to the year of the Olympics, the OPEX program becomes very important. I can imagine it's been the other way for you.
Look, I've been a board member of SASCOC, and we've ensured that the OPEX program runs. Not as much funds as we would have hoped to supply to the athletes, but we are still funding them. The OPEX contracts came to an end last year, and now we have to renegotiate with the athletes around the funding needed. And that process is also taking place now.
And you're telling me that you'll soon be having your constitutional meeting, so you'll be conforming to the Zulman report?
Yes. The elements of the Zulman report, that one of the requirements was to change the board in terms of making sure that the minister is confident with the board that SASCOC has. But it's not purely a ministerial request. The Zulman Committee's report was very scathing of the manner in which SASCOC was running. And our membership also felt that they needed to make these changes, and hence this request for a change in the constitution. And one of the key components of the constitutional change is to enable us to have the elections before the Olympics or in the quadrennial year, whereas the current statement is that the elections will take place after the Olympics. So the simple change that has been forwarded is that the elections can take place in the quadrennial year, not stating a specific month.
I'm not sure if I remember well what was the response of SASCOC, especially the membership, on the proposal to have an independent president. I think also there were also discussions or suggestions around an accountant, around those sticky issues, because there was a feeling that you cannot separate the president from the membership.
It's a standard in sport, including the IPC as well as the IOC, that the president is an elected person from the sports fraternity. We sat down with the minister and we've agreed that sort of policy will remain, so that the president will still come from the sports fraternity and be elected through a democratic process to be the president. And that applies to all the other board members as well, except the two independents, which are the specialists in finance and the specialists in legal. The Zulman Committee recommended that we bring them in and co-opt them as members to the board. And that process we've agreed to as part of our usual co-option, because every 4 years we are entitled to co-opt 4 people. The Zulman Committee's report stated that, look, they regarded that those 2 key specialist areas should come from independents, and we're quite happy. It also follows the King 4 recommendations. I can't answer that one. Our High Performance Committee or Commission met yesterday, and they will come up with a detailed report on the criteria, as well as team sizes, as well as the support staff to those teams. And next week, the 24th, we will have a press briefing around that, and we'll be able to deal with that in more detail.
What can you promise to the nation? Because now the focus, 2020 is an Olympic year, and we had 6 medals.
Rio,
and
10 in Rio.
10 in Rio,
yeah,
eh?
yeah.
Yes, and we had some good gold medals as well in Rio. What can you promise? I know that you are revealing your plans for the Olympics next year, but overall.
No promises at this stage. Let's go over the reports from the various commissions. So we have the Medical Commission, we have the High Performance Commission, but most importantly, we also need these one-on-ones still to take place with the federations themselves. So let's wait and be patient for that. But I can tell you, while I'm acting, there's going to be no pronouncement on number of medals. Okay.
But does, especially the athletics performance in Qatar last year, the World Championships, does it concern you as leaders at this stage?
We know that our athletes are still practicing, our athletes are still training, and wait for us to engage those particular federations to give us a status and what they think first before we pronounce on any of those sports.
Because you came back with no medal, even those who went there to defend their titles.
Yes, but again, let's chat to the federation and the athletes and then engage with you on those particular matters in terms of how strong they feel and how confident they feel about bringing medals back to South Africa.